Hello, everyone. I won't do yo-yo this time.
I was ready for it. I was waiting for it. Yo yo yo.
I didn't want it to be too much for you, Carly.
Well, now I know to expect it.
Okay, all right. We'll start over. Yo yo yo, everyone.
Hey guys, what's up?
We're back. We're back for episode 3 here of Heartfire. We're doing the same thing we're always doing. We're talking about past events, possible future events, and pulling oracle cards and shooting the shit. And I'm excited today. I was looking forward to this. I've been sick the last week, but this is a nice reset for me. How are you feeling? I know you had a lot going on.
Yeah, I feel pretty good. I'm a little tired because we, as you can tell, we're in our new house. And so I think we recorded the week we moved, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I
was
think
2 weeks ago.
right before that, or
It was like 3 days
that
before we
week.
moved or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and so here we are on the other side. Couldn't find my headphones. No idea where they are. But other than that, everything's going really, really well. Really, really well, to the point where I'm like, is this really real? Or am I here? Is this what's actually happening?
So
And
let's
then
get this testament on recording. So a big part of what we had talked about the last couple weeks was really
Mhm.
like you surrendering into this and kind of saying, okay, I'm going to give this to you. Let's see what happens. Now you're
Mhm.
on the other side. How did that work out?
Oh my gosh. So incredibly well. And it's kind of funny. So we wound up making the drive in 2 days. It was 1,047 miles. So it
Wow.
was, quite a drive each day. And we left on Saturday and we did the first 500 miles. And, we rocked it out and we decided we stopped in, I think, Medford, Oregon. And usually, when we're doing moves like this or whatever, we just kind of stop when we feel like we want to stop. We're like, okay, that's good. And we don't usually make a reservation or anything. So we did not make a reservation. So we get to Medford and apparently they were having this big country music festival. So in a place where I would imagine it's normally pretty easy to find a space to stay,
Right.
we get there at it's 11:30 at night, and we get there and we're having quite the time finding a spot. So we wind up driving around. We wasted an hour of time because neither one of us were in flow, and we were both just so tired and just ready to go to sleep. And so finally we wound up finding a spot for him to park because we had the Penske that was hauling one of our cars, and then I was driving the minivan with the dogs because we're those people. We have a minivan for our dogs. I insisted on it. Also, driving a minivan is like driving a couch. Highly recommend. But
Yeah,
anyway,
your minivan's great.
it's awesome,
the
right?
minivan. Yeah, highly recommend.
It's so bougie. But anyway, so we wind up pulling up outside of this Super 8 in Medford, Oregon, and Vince goes in and the guy's like, no room. And so we're, calling around all these places and whatever. And I'm like, look, I have to go to the bathroom. So I go inside and the guy's mopping the hallway. And I'm like, look, we've been trying to find a room. We can't find a room anywhere. And can I just use your bathroom? And then we'll go and find something. He's like, oh, I have one room. It's just much money. And I was like, well, how much money? Because you have a room. He told Vince no. But no, the guy tells me he has a room. So he lets
We
me use
don't
the
like to
bathroom.
sell the room that costs a lot of money. We don't like making money around here. That's not the business we do.
And meanwhile, we're looking for a place to sleep.
Yeah,
Come on. So I go to the bathroom, I come out, and he tells me how much the room is, and it's not cheap. And I'm like, especially for a Super 8, I'm like, that is the most expensive Super 8 we ever stayed in, but who cares, right? So I'm like, no, we'll totally take the room. Give us
for one
I'm like,
night. Yeah.
do you allow dogs? And he's like, there's a fee. And I'm like, do I look like I care? Whatever, right? So, but it was perfect, right? Because, even though we had an hour where we kind of stumbled, that was probably the hardest part of the trip is needing to use the bathroom and not having anywhere to go.
Oh yeah, that's rough.
So but it just like worked out, and the room was perfect. It was like at the end of the hallway, tucked away, so the dogs wouldn't bother anybody and nobody would bother the dogs. We got some
Nice.
sleep. We got up and did the rest of the trip the next day, and it was super easy, super fantastic. And then everything made it. Nothing got broken. And we had movers to come help unload the truck. So they
Oh,
unloaded
that's
the
great.
truck. And then we got to kind of get situated, get familiar with the house. Because, we bought it sight unseen, which is really common for military families. For the normal
Oh, okay.
population, it's very uncommon. Um, so I realize it's a weird thing to do, but it happens to us a lot because usually the new duty station is pretty far away and you don't always
Mm,
have the luxury or the time to be able to go up and, look in the market. It's
right.
different than moving locally. So we get to the house. The house is fantastic. It's on over a half an
Oh,
acre. And there are like
beautiful.
rabbits that live in the front yard, and there are deer that come and are going to probably eat my vegetable garden. you know,
Oh yeah.
but it was incredible because the first day I went to the grocery store, like when you drive out of where we live, like first off, if you look through the trees, you can see the water from the house, which
Oh, that's
is
beautiful.
it's incredible,
Yeah,
and when it's
it's
clear, the
gorgeous.
mountains are out. You can see the
Oh
mountains,
wow.
and I'm just like, "Oh my god, this is like paradise." This is literally everything that I've ever wanted, Like, and I told Vince, I'm like, "If you can't get orders here next time, if you decide not to retire, then you might just have to leave me here." This might be the end of the road for me, But the first day going to the grocery store, like there were so many trees and so much water, and it was just so beautiful and such a change from where we were that I just like cried on the way to the grocery store. And
Oh.
then on the way back, it happened again because it was just still so beautiful and like so much water and so many trees. And I was just so like overwhelmed at the reality and the ease that, everything kind of unfolded. And, so it's a little chaotic here now. There's like, if I look over past where you can see, there's just like a whole mountain of boxes.
Boxes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're empty, but, they need to be, so it's a little chaotic here. But, we've done this before, and this is the easiest time we've ever had. It's been the smoothest, and I don't know. I just, it's hard work to move, but it's still been the easiest kind of experience. And there
Right.
hasn't been any stress other than the hour of needing to use the bathroom, finding a place to sleep, like, and while while we were kind of focusing on that, we had our house in California that we were needing to rent out too. And it was funny. I was working with a client before we did this today, and we were talking about, surrendering things as we tend to. And the moment we surrendered that too, we wound up with renters, and they're very well qualified, like a good fit for the house, and it's all just fallen into place. It's incredible.
No, that's awesome. And I like what you said about how, it's still work, right? Like this
Mm,
isn't
mhm.
a magic cure. It's not just like, oh, I surrendered. I sit on the couch and I'll wake up in the new house in like a week. It's like, no, you still have to like mold the clay into the pot, right?
Mhm.
Like that's still the work, but how it's done is done in such a different way.
Exactly.
And our experience of it is so different that it's moved and that it's changed and it's lifted, and it's it creates a different experience both for us, for other people I've found like
Mhm.
in the experience with us, right? Like we're able to have an ease and a grace that kind of sucks them in and makes it easier for them as
Yeah.
well. And even though we are, even when we're doing something that is still like maybe physically difficult or that is work or that isn't, the most fun thing in the world, like that's okay, and like that's still a part of what it is to be alive, is to do, these things that aren't always the most comfortable, but it's from a place that's so different. Our experience of it
Mhm.
is vastly different, and it's beautiful in its own way. Like there is something beautiful about like going outside and like shoveling until your body's like sweaty or something, like
Yeah.
even though that could be, and a lot of times we consider it like grueling work,
Mhm.
right? And I'm not saying that's something I want to do every day or for a living or anything like that. But when our mindset has changed, when how we're having that experience has changed, life is very different. Despite us still doing things that you know if we want to think, oh, like we're in heaven, then we just sit on the couch, watch our favorite television show, and then boom, pops up $1 billion. Our perfect woman, and but we are still living life, but it's a vastly different kind of experience of it,
Hmm.
I think.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because when I think about the examples that kind of pop up are like, yeah, we're doing hard work unloading. We have so many books, so many books,
Books
and
are rough to move. I
oh,
love books, but man, they are rough to move.
so many books, and I have so many crystals. It's I literally moved
You're
boxes of
like, this is a
rocks. Okay,
problem.
like it's a little problematic. Like now that they're like all in the same place, I can see like, oh yeah, that's like a 20-year collection of crystals. Like, oops, that I've moved several times now. Um, but no, but even in that work, it was really fascinating because the people who came to work with us were very joyful in their work and they were very mindful in their work, and
Oh, that's
we all
awesome.
got along really well and worked together as a team, and it was just so effortless. Like, yes, we were lifting and moving heavy crap, but it was such an effortless way to move through the experience. And I think it's the Dalai Lama, I think, who said that as you're moving forward on your spiritual path, it's not necessarily that life gets easier, it's that your relationship with the things that happens changes. And
Mm.
so you're exactly right, you do move through it in a much different way than you would have. um, and I'm just super grateful and I'm so appreciative to be here. And I every day it's like a fun new adventure. We've been walking around the yard, and there are like snails and rabbits and flowers and trees and I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but
No, that's
it
awesome.
was brown and dirty and gross where we were.
Yeah, no, very different from where you came from. And I know, like, just in general, nature is something that's very important to you. And I fully
Hmm.
get that. And it is a very different experience being in a place that like resonates with you, like beauty
Yeah.
wise, nature wise, and the people there. I know you probably even haven't met many people yet, but there is a difference that you can kind of feel, I think, when you go
Hmm.
into a new place and just feel like, this is the right place for now,
Yeah.
like for
Yeah.
where I want to be and where I'm supposed to be at.
Hmm.
And I'm really happy you found that, because I know Lemoore wasn't your favorite place in the world, and I think you will really enjoy this new spot, and that's
Yeah.
beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, thanks. We made the most of it, and I feel like I learned a lot from it, like an
Yeah.
appreciation of like agriculture and all that kind of stuff. And I'm happy for this next adventure. But it's interesting. You mentioned like not having met a lot of people yet. It's fascinating. We've been to Home Depot like 400 times, as you do when you buy a new house, and everybody out in town seems to be so happy. Like when I was out in the
Oh, that's
last place
wonderful.
running errands, it's just kind of like head down, just kind of like blinders on, like nobody interacts. And here, we're getting like tips from people. Try this restaurant. The Lions Club is having an auction if you need furniture, and there's this here, and you might like that, and try that out. And everybody's just so happy, and they like look at you and they smile at you. It's so fantastic. So I think meeting people is going to be great.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
So yeah, here we are. So that's me. So what's going on with you?
Honestly, it was a quiet, maybe couple weeks. Do we talk before I went to the Nuggets game?
Yeah, and then I think I was in Florida watching the game before the one you went to.
Right,
I'm
right.
Just so you know, I'm only a Nuggets fan sometimes when it's on other people's TVs.
know what? I'll take it. I will take that. Any Nuggets fan I can get. I'm slowly converting everyone in my life to a Nuggets fan in some capacity, and that's enough for me, Carly. That's all. That's enough. Um,
And
but
just so everybody knows, that was the second basketball game I've ever watched in my whole entire life. Just
and the first was at my house
was
when
at
I
your house.
forced it upon you and Rupee and Rob.
Yeah.
But
So how
no,
was the trip?
I was really excited when I saw you watching the game. But the trip itself, I mean, so I'm a big basketball fan,
Mhm.
obviously. The Nuggets have been my team for a long time, since I really started really getting into basketball. They were a team I loved, and The thing that I really appreciate about this team was like they were all drafted together, like these three main guys: Jokic, Murray, Porter. And so they were all young and they kind of grew up as a team together. And now these are three guys that all had like kind of unique hardships.
Mm-hmm.
Where in the NBA today, this sounds like I'm going off on a tangent, but I think it is relevant to this
We'll follow
podcast and what
along.
we talk about. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of just like trading for the best players and creating a team with the best guys, right? And this is a team that kind of did the opposite. They drafted these young guys that they believed in, and they held on to them, and they built this core group together. And each one kind of faced a really unique challenge. Like Porter had a lot of back injuries and surgeries to the point where a lot of people didn't think he'd ever be able to play basketball again.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Jokic was this big lumbering Serbian dude who looks like he's going to collapse at any moment, and everyone's saying,
He's massive. Yeah.
he's giant, he's lumbering, he's like not athletic at all. He can't jump over a piece of paper, and everyone says, he looks like he's nobody, and no one really kind of believed in his talent for the longest time, and he's become the best player in the world, and a lot of people still didn't even believe it as he was
Mm-hmm.
doing it this season. And Murray, a year, wow, 2 years ago, tore his ACL, and to the point where we weren't sure if he was ever going to be able to play again. And he told this story of uh, to the fans and the media, where after tearing his ACL, which of course is an extremely rough
Mm-hmm.
injury, he went to his coach. He was like, "Listen, like Malone, who's been their coach the entire time, he's like, listen, I get it if you want to trade me. I'm damaged goods now. Like, I understand, no hard feelings, whatever." The coach is like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, we love you. You're our family. Like, we're
Mm-hmm.
not trading you for shit. Like, we believe in
Aw.
you." And seeing how he came back this season, this was his first season back and playing in the playoffs, and he played incredible. And he was a huge part of how they won. They wouldn't have won without him. And so, I mean, during the game itself, it was all this incredible energy. Everyone is so hyped. It was a weird game, but it ended up being close, and the Nuggets won. And when everyone won, it was so hyped. But there's this moment where they bring out the podium, right? And they're giving the trophies and they interview all the players. And they went to Murray, who had this injury, and they asked him about it. And they're like, did you think you'd be here? The first season back 2 years ago, you couldn't walk, and
Mm-hmm.
now you're here. And he started crying and getting emotional, and the crowd cheered. It was the loudest anyone had cheered all day. Even when they won, they cheered for him, and you saw him like break down and start crying.
Aw.
And it was just like this moment of such love,
Mm.
really, between like 30,000, 40,000 people and this one guy, and just like this love for his journey and appreciation, and him like really feeling that love. I mean, he was crying and getting emotional at our cheering, and then giving it back. He felt it back. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he was so grateful, and it was just like this beautiful moment of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand why sports gets written off a lot, and I think that one thing that is so beautiful about it is that it's that a very unique circumstance where there can be this huge relation between this giant group of people, of all understanding, and this struggle that people faced, and surrounding this goal, and having this goal together, and then like appreciating it together. And I don't know, it was
Mm-hmm.
just a really beautiful moment, honestly, and one that I'll remember like kind of forever. it
Yeah.
was it was I don't know, it's such a beautiful energy and mixture of emotion.
That's really cool. And, it sounds like too, it's another way, it's a very useful and beneficial way to bring large quantities of people into the frequency of gratitude. So I think like anytime you're
Yeah.
doing that, like however you're doing that, that's great work to do. Because that's really what we're trying to do here, right? Like I feel like my whole goal in everything that I do is try and hold the highest frequency I can, shine that light out into the world so that everybody else can hold that high frequency too. And that's kind of like what that sounds like to me, which is cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It really felt like that. It was just this moment of love and gratitude between all these people. And it was really beautiful. And I appreciated that. And again, I think it meant more because it was this core group, this team that was built up together,
Hmm.
and we knew their story, and we knew they were the underdogs in a lot of ways. And so it was just this beautiful moment and experience. uh
So that was like their first time winning a what you call it, right?
Yeah, it was the first time. And again, like that was the first time they ever won the championship, first time they were ever in the championship. So as an organization, they were a very underdog organization,
Yeah. Good for them.
Yeah, yeah. So it was beautiful to see, honestly. I felt so happy for the players. Like I really had a sense of like love and joy and energy. I was so energized after the game
Yeah.
of just that, having that connection. And it felt like not that I had achieved something, but that I was a part of something
Hmm.
beautiful that occurred. And I think that's the beauty of sports, right? Is like having that connection there. And so yeah, that
Cool.
was very cool.
I enjoyed. Thanks for sharing that perspective because you know how sportsy I am. So I appreciate that. That's cool. I enjoy that way to look at it. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, no, it was very unique in that. Well, not unique, but it was very grateful that I was able to have that unique experience of
Yeah,
being there for the finals and the game they won.
that's
Uh,
cool.
and th- and then the other thing that kind of happened was I was sick for the last week,
Mm.
which yeah, never a great time. I was like out for like 2 days. I was like bedridden basically. But we talked a little about this before we started the pod, but I
Yeah,
think it was a good like, hey, you need to take a fucking break.
yeah.
And I that's not to say I've been like working like crazy or grinding myself to a nub, but I have been doing a lot the last couple months. And I felt like I was reaching a point where I was doing a lot and I wasn't able to say no to anything, where I wasn't able to take
Mm.
the time for myself to slow down and stop. And so I
Hmm.
think a part of this was like, okay, I need to slow down. And it was very, as much as no one loves being sick, it was very nice to
Yeah.
be alone for like a week, to
Hmm.
not have anything to do. And for me, it was a good experience to change the mindset, where I've realized I still have this kind of undercurrent in my life of worrying about the future,
Okay.
and not a future in a specific sense, because I think I've done a lot to get rid of that, but like just this idea of future, that there's going to be a tomorrow, that the
Hmm.
tomorrow is going to hold something that I'm maybe not prepared for,
Mm.
or something that's going to be like challenging in a way, or where the other shoe will drop is kind of a good way to explain it. And I grew up in a household where it always felt like the other shoe is going to drop. Like that was the energy of a lot of people I was around growing up.
Hmm.
And I have done a lot to get rid of that, but I still find this very subtle undercurrent of there is a future and the other shoe is going to drop in it. And I just have to always be doing something to kind of put that, to push that away, to fend that off. And
Hmm.
so while I was sick, I was just in this mindset of today. This is today.
Hmm.
Don't have anything to do today. Just have to get better. There's no tomorrow to worry about. None of that bullshit. Because when you're sick, it's just like, oh, like I'm physically,
I'm
literally
here
all
in
you can
bed.
think about is, yeah, like this body needs to recover. There's no other,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's that like survival mode you're almost in. And so it was refreshing to know that that mind state exists, where I've been too much of in the mode of, okay, there's something I have to do, right? Like
Mm. Yeah,
there's
I
always
get that.
something to have to do.
Yeah, I totally appreciate that. I've been self-employed for a long time. And I also, like we grew up really poor and so but my parents both had a really strong work ethic. And I think they're like this is kind of like a twofold conversation because on one hand there are the programming and the ideas that we are brought up with, right? And then on the
Right.
other hand, it's the, of the you constantly have to be doing. And then on the other hand, it's the things are too good to be true. When is the other shoe going to drop? So I think that's kind of
Mm,
like two
yeah.
components here. And as you talk about these, I recognize both of these things in myself, and I recognize where I see them in other people too. And so I think this is a really common thing. So I'm glad you brought it up. And I do agree. Like when you're sick, it's the universe's nod of, hey, it's time to slow down, and it's time to have some reflection and some introspection and some rest, and then you can do whatever's next.
Mhm.
Because I know I find when I'm going too hard, the same thing happens to me, and I don't think we're alone in that.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty common. It's like that 2x4 therapy. Like you didn't listen to the gentle like whispers, so okay, fine.
No,
She's right there for
exactly.
you.
And
Yeah.
I especially feel it with that mind state because I've been very conscious of it for a little while now. And I find it's a hard one to kick because it feels so subtle where it's just like, it feels right almost in a way because there is always something to do, right?
Sure.
And like there is always something I could be doing to like technically make the future better or easier, right?
Right.
Or and speaking of like self-employment and not having a traditional kind of income or
Mm-hmm.
job, there is always a sense of okay, I need to be doing something to kind of
Mm-hmm.
set myself up for the future. And so
Right.
there it feels like there's a rightness to it, right? Which is always the trickiness about fear, is it can convince you that it's right, that
Yeah.
there's a
You're right.
realness to what you're saying.
Yeah. You do always have to be doing something. And if you rest, God forbid, you can't rest because the whole thing's
No,
going to come burning down around you.
exactly. And like, oh, remember this thing? Like you better fucking do
Hmm.
that right now.
Hmm.
And so but the problem is that energy is very uh, inconducive to being in the moment, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah. That definitely
can't.
robs you of your power of now.
Absolutely. And, I think a lot about what Thich Nhat Hanh, he's always talking about like to take care of the future, it's really taking care of the present moment.
Hmm.
That's really what it is. And a hard, it's a hard for me to accept in a way because the mind always believes that we have to be planning for the next step, that it's always about
Hmm.
like the next chess move. And a lot of, I think, where I'm at now is moving to the place of acceptance of what is and
Hmm.
stepping into the present moment, knowing that you're then stepping into the unknown of the future. And that's the best place you can be. Like, you have to accept that the future is unknown, that it's an idea, really, and that when you step into the present moment, you're in a mind state where you are then in receptivity, you are then in pure action, not
Hmm.
action based out of fear, which is only going to get you more fear and right more of the same. And
Right.
the pure action instead is in alignment with the universe, in alignment with
Yeah.
flow.
It's
And that's
inspired
when,
action. Hmm.
yeah, inspired action. And it's it was a good time for me to kind of see how my mind, I think when we have these undercurrents, they can be so subtle and in us for so long, they're really hard to catch. We don't
Hmm.
even realize that this is how we think. It's just, the guides talk about like having sunglasses with a tint on. And our
Hmm.
whole lives, we've had these sunglasses with a tint. Until you lift the shades, you're not going to know there's a tint there,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like there are a couple things, but the first thing is it's kind of like, I wear glasses, and when they're dirty and they've been dirty for a couple days, everything just kind of looks like, dirty. And then I take them off and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like look at that. It's not foggy."
It's not foggy in my living room. Who would have
Oh, look at
guessed?
that. It's so clear in here. Like, oh, the air is so fresh. The other thing is, this is what came in. This is what I giggled at. We're not playing chess. We're playing checkers. Like, it's not chess. But we try and make it chess. And that's what makes it so much harder. And, the fun thing
Mm,
about checkers is you don't have to know a bunch of rules, and you don't have to try and plan for something else. You just got to wait for the next thing to happen to be like, okay, I'm trusting that I'm in the right place at the right time. I think that's a really cool thing that you recognized, and that's a really cool thing that you're bringing up here, because I think, like, I spent a lot of years in that place, and I think only in the last like 2 years have I finally gotten to the place where I'm like, it's okay to relax. First and foremost, you don't have to work 24/7, because for some reason I thought you did. And secondly, the only thing that I can deal with is now. It's, what is it saying? Worries like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but gets you nowhere.
Mm,
Have you heard that expression?
I haven't. That
I think
sounds
it's an old
southern.
one.
I like
It's an
it.
old one.
Yeah.
um, but and I think for a minute there too, I really started to slip back into that old fear of, this reality is too good to be true. Everything is going so well. The other shoe is bound to drop. But then I did recognize it and catch it of, oh wait, that's actually not the case. There's a book. It's called The Big Leap by, I think the guy's name is Gay Hendricks. And that's one of the things he talks about. He talks about people's upper limits and,
Mm,
where they kind of stem from. You actually might enjoy that book. Um,
I'll check it out.
but I feel like this is a good opportunity to pull a card.
All right, let's
Yeah.
do it.
All right.
Works for me.
So, and what I was thinking now I was listening and paying attention, but as you were talking, what I what I was thinking is asking for some guidance for folks who find themselves in the same kind of situation where
Mm,
we are worrying about the future, and we are worrying about, the other shoe dropping. Of course, for me, I know the answer is surrender. For me, the answer is always surrender. That's what I've learned. Like, anytime I'm gripping onto something, if I can let it go, if I can allow myself the space to surrender, then what I find is I find myself being in that flow state or in the upper room, depending on the language you like. And it's not, again, not that I'm not doing something or not that I'm not preparing for the future. It's that I am allowing myself to be so present that the next positive step makes itself known, that it comes up for me, that it says, here I am.
hmm.
Ta-da. And it's such a fun way to move. Okay. But let's see what the cards have here. I
All
think
right,
I
are we
pulled first
both
last time.
are we both asking that question? Or is one of us asking the
Sure,
question?
let's both ask it. We haven't tried that yet.
Okay, I like that. I like that. I'll
Yeah.
pull first. I'll pull
Okay.
first. Let me give it some energy here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll ask like specifically to me and broadly, and you can ask both broadly, and then we'll have like two answers of, the same kind of question.
Okay.
Okay. Ooh, I got a card that says empowerment.
Ooh.
I like that. It's a pretty card too. And it's of the sacral chakra. All right.
Hmm.
23 empowerment. It's an interesting answer already. Rely on your inner strength to ensure your dreams are realized. The blessing of Ganesh is sensing your personal power, being confident, responsible, and reliable. The energy from this card is a feeling of optimism and positive energy. Dreams and long term goals are becoming reality. If you have been lethargic or unmotivated, take time to tune into your personal power. Yellow is associated with the solar plexus chakra. Oh, I was wrong. The solar plexus we're looking at, which is the third chakra. This chakra is considered to be at the core of your being, your power center. Here is the home of your self esteem, your willpower, your self discipline, and your personality. Ganesh is showing you that there's an important purpose for you in this lifetime on Earth. You are awakening to your personal power and the memory of yourself as a soul. Your healing will be complete when you see the light of your soul and know that that light is who you truly are. Every time you
Hmm.
criticize yourself, you weaken your resolve. Loving and accepting yourself and acknowledging your value are the foundation of a balanced solar plexus. When the solar plexus chakra is in balance, you're confident and empowered with a healthy level of self esteem. You have to respect yourself as well as respect for others. You have a strong sense of self and your personal power, and you use it responsibly. Be confident in your talents, love yourself, Be willing to express yourself. Choose to be direct with your desires at this time. If you are asking about a decision, all indications are that the time is to act now.
Mm.
So I think personally, this is a really interesting answer because I think it resonates with the idea that part of this is, for me at least, stems from this idea that I won't be able to do something, or I will
Mm.
have fucked up, and that leads to the other shoe dropping almost.
Mhm.
Or
Yeah.
that if I'm not on top of everything with myself, then I won't be able to do it. Like whatever it is, whatever the future needs of me, whatever, like, if left to my own devices, I will lead myself to ruin. Like that kind of old fear, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
and it's silly, but I do still see remnants of myself. And this is something I struggled a lot with as a kid, like this feeling of inadequacy. And I think it's a very human feeling, the feeling of
Mhm.
like not being enough, of making too many mistakes, of fucking up, whatever. And so I think this card feels nice for me because it is that reminder of I have all the tools I need to continue to build the future I want. Like
Mhm.
it, I think surrender is definitely always a part of it, but I think there's something beautiful in the reminder of I have the power to keep manifesting the life I want to live, and I have the talents and the abilities to do that. And so
Mhm.
I think this was a nice card. I like this.
Yeah. Yeah. And the question that comes up here is, you know, it, we ask ourselves, what if I get it wrong? When a better question might be, what if I couldn't get it wrong? What if I can't get it wrong? Because I think
Mm.
that's really the reality is I think it's
Mm.
Abraham Hicks who talks about like you never get it done and you never get it wrong, you know. um because you don't ever get it done. And I do like what you say about, I have the power to manifest. I have the power to bring my energy, to focus my energy in certain ways. And so I think, bringing that back with the surrender, yes, for me, it is always surrender because my personality wants to try and control the little aspects. And so that's where the surrender comes in handy. And so it allows people like me to focus our energy in a more effective and efficient way toward what we do want instead of what we don't want.
Mm.
Like I worked with a client yesterday and this happens to all of us where like we're in flow and then something happens and we get out of flow and then we get really out of flow. And then like next thing you turn around, whether it's been 2 minutes, 2 hours, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, you turn around, you're like, oh shit, I am manifesting. Like, cause I was like, how you doing? She's like, this is wrong. And this is bad. And this sucks. And this happened to me. And like this, and this. And I'm
Yeah,
like, man, I have been there.
yeah.
you know, let's see if we can shift this momentum. Um, but it definitely, because we're constantly always manifesting, so it's a question of which direction am I manifesting. Am I manifesting toward the things that are life affirming or fulfilling or holding steady the light, or am I putting my energy toward those other things? um the other thing that came up with this is also deserving, because a lot of people
Mm.
feel like they don't deserve it. Like they have to do something
Yeah.
to earn the right to manifest the good life. And I think that was me for a really long time. I just felt like I wasn't good enough or smart enough, or who am I to deserve this? Why do
Right.
I get this? Like, who do you think you are? Like, what do you think you are, special? Like, and the answer
Yeah.
is no and yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not special because we're all special, but yes, I am, and because we all are, and we don't have to do anything to earn it, to deserve it. I love this for you. So, what are you going to do with this going forward?
Well, I want to touch on one thing you said because you talked about deserving real quick.
Yeah.
And that's something that came up very heavily in one of my recent like meditations. And
Mhm.
the idea of deserving, it was that like, you know, part of this journey for me has been this idea always that I need to be better, that I need to be
Mhm.
more good, that I need to be the enlightened one. And it it was what I heard was, you don't have to get to the other shore to deserve the love and the grace and the peace and the gifts.
Mm.
Like
Mhm.
you are deserving of it on this shore where you are right now. Like you are worthy of all of that. And like the other shore doesn't matter. Like you get there when you get there. Like you don't have to, you know, rush the river or whatever. It's we're deserving of all of that now. And whether we have lessons to learn or not to get to the other shore, like that's fine. That is what it is.
Mhm.
But at the same time, like having to relearn your worth and you're deserving right where you are, like as you are. And that still to me is like revolutionary and it's
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah, I feel like that was definitely one of those things. I probably spent many, 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 many sessions with my teacher working on, and then many, many, many years after that of the, and I think, I'm still in the boat paddling along with everybody else. And I think that when you do finally decide that you don't have to do anything to deserve it, and you allow the grace and the love and that really nice high frequency energy to come in, it becomes they become tools to help you, I don't know, steer the boat or whatever, if that's the the image
Yeah.
that we're using here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that. Nice.
Okay. So now your other question was, how do I
Mm-hmm.
take this forward?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good question. I think it starts with me accepting my ability and trusting that I can stay in the present moment. And as I do that, I will have both the skills and the support I need to continue to build the life that I want to live and
Mm-hmm.
can you continue to push forward towards the things that I want and that are of the highest, and know that I'll make mistakes and blunder on the path, and those will be the wonderful learning experiences I need,
Mm-hmm.
but also resting in my own power and my own support and my own ability to know myself as safe in the present moment, just
Mm-hmm.
as things are, and kind of release this idea of the future, of the other shoe dropping, of needing that, and using that as claiming fear is my best friend there, and claiming fear is what's been keeping me safe, because it hasn't been, and that's a
Mm-hmm.
lie, and so renegotiating that, I think.
Nice. I love that. Um, it sounds like it boils down to trust. I trust that I have everything that I need and that I figure things out as they come and that I'm supported and I'm guided. And I don't know, I feel like at the end of the day, and maybe this is, I'm trying to figure out where it shifted for me, because I do feel like it shifted, because I
Mm,
do very much feel like I have no idea what's on my calendar. I have no idea how many clients I have. I have no idea, but I know and I trust that everything is just kind of constantly, consistently working out. And I don't know how that shifted, but I do feel like there is such a level of trust that I didn't have before, where when I, especially now that I'm here where I'm like in a place that's so like magical feeling, you know the frequency of this planet is a ray 2 planet, which is the ray of love and wisdom. And so the despite whatever might be going on in the rest of the world, like, that's not my focus, that's not my job. My job is to focus on my frequency and hold my frequency and shine the light that I can. So with that understanding that it's all of God or none of it is. And if this is a ray 2 love and wisdom planet, then that means the predominant frequency of the planet is love and abundance. And my only job is to stay tapped into that frequency, because when I stay tapped into that frequency, that's when the inspired action comes. And that's when I find myself with everything just unfolding so naturally and easily. And if I do get
mm,
to a point on the physical realm where I'm like, I don't have as many clients on the books as I would like, then that actually becomes a really interesting like manifestation practice as well. So I'm getting a little whisper here, but the question, or the, I guess the advice that I'm hearing here is ask myself, where can I trust more? Where do I need to
Mm.
trust more? Um, so I don't know if that's for you or just for the in general, but there you go. That's what I got.
Yeah, no, I think that's good for everyone. I think that's always a good question to ask. And as you were saying that, I felt energy. Like that was very well said and well spoken. And I think that feels good. And every time we can move to that place where we move more into the energy of love and abundance, and knowing that as experiential, like something shifts every single time, and you feel it, and the people around you feel it, and it's a beautiful place to be. And it takes time, but it's nice to be able to slowly shift and move into that experience. And I think that was very well said.
Oh,
Now
thanks.
it's your turn to pick a card, though.
Okay. So, and I did as we were kind of
Okay,
moving through,
okay.
and the card that I picked is the eagle, which is fun because I had never actually seen an eagle in person until yesterday.
Oh,
Because there was a lot
what?
of eagles here. Yeah, like I
That's
don't know,
awesome.
I don't know where I've been living the last 40 years, but not where there are eagles. Okay, so the keywords here are spirit, integrity, and connection to the angelic realm. So
Mm.
that's the eagle,
Real quick,
and
my
mhm,
every time I feel like hawks and eagles are like a spirit animal for me, and every time
mhm.
I see one, it's always a very good sign for me. So
Oh, so this
that's
is a
cool
very
that
good
you
sign
pulled
for
that.
you. I get a lot of hawks too. And I wonder if I'm going to start getting more eagles now that we're in the land of eagles.
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out. But I do really love this card coming up in relation to our question. So, spirit, integrity, connection to the angelic realm. So, really, I feel like a lot of this is about saying, what my teacher always calls turning the eyes upwards, which is kind of the moment where you're
Mm,
like, God help me. Um,
mm.
I'm going to call on my guides, my angels, my helpers, everybody who's there to assist me. I always call on the whole team. Like, everybody, come on.
Get off the bench. It's time. It's game time,
It's time to
boys
go.
and
Yeah,
ladies.
we're taking the whole team. No bench sitters here. Everybody's relevant. All right. So when the eagle appears, it is a true signal of your connection to the angelic realm. With the angel's help and guidance, you can soar above life to see the larger vista. And I feel like when we have that view of that larger vista, we can
Mhm.
see that there's nothing to be afraid of. We can see that, oh, hey, you know what? Everything has always worked out to me to this point. I have 100% track record. So there's no reason to believe that that's going to
Yeah,
change.
yeah.
The eagle helps you make your choices accordingly with integrity. When you pray to your angels, they will always answer, for they patiently wait for you to call upon them for assistance. The
Mm.
angels reside beside you, always hoping to aid humankind in finding peace and manifesting abundance and prosperity. Like, we all have these huge teams of helpers. And I've worked with a lot of people before who always feel like reluctant to call in for assistance. Like, why am I having them bother with my petty bullshit?
I
And
think
I'm
we
like,
had this conversation last time after the
did
pod.
we?
I was like, "Yeah, I'm kind of afraid to call them in. I feel like they have better stuff to do. They got, they're up there in the angelic realm, and I'm over here like, yo, I can't find my watch or something. Well, I wouldn't call them in for that, but you get it. It feels
I
like that,
would. Car keys? Come on, guys.
All right, you get the couch. You get the kitchen.
I think it's so funny, because I've heard like both sides of the argument of like don't bother them with your crap and call them on all in for help. And here's the way that I look at it at this point is the worst they're gonna say is no. But I can tell
Yeah.
you, even when I am asking for some dumb shit, I'll never get a no. Help me find my car keys. Okay. And then like, oh, ta-da, you put them in the freezer. Like, all right. The eagle asks you to remember to soar high above life and look at the big picture. So when we're down in the nitty gritty details, it's super duper easy to get caught up in the momentum of worry and fear. And when we take that eagle eye perspective, it's so much easier to see the big picture. It's so much easier to see that, yeah, all this stuff does work out. Don't get too caught up in the tiny, unimportant aspects of life. The spiritual world is the real one. Your physical life is the dream. When the eagle appears, it's also a signal for prayer. It's time for a moment of
Mm.
conscious contact with the divine. Remember that you're always protected and divinely directed if you follow the guidance of spirit as it appears in the form of the eagle. So, how about that?
No, that was a really good card. I I like a lot again what it talks about of the eagle eye vision of things. And
Hmm.
one thing that I found really helpful and this idea of, so much of this journey, and the guides have talked a lot about this right now in the book I'm reading. They talk about a lot in the kingdom, but also resurrection, which I'm reading now. We have such a strong idea of self
Hmm.
and individuality. And I found that as I let go of this idea of self, not only does it unravel and I kind of unwind, but there's a sort of, they'd use the words translucentness, which I think is good, but also like a, what's it called? Permeation,
Mm.
where when I lose the idea of self and step into the plural, all of these fears kind of have to go away because I'm no
Hmm.
longer this individual being that has to survive, that has to have their desires met, that needs these things to happen, that wants to
Mm.
be successful because I'm no longer that. I'm not that individual being. So why would I need those things? Like I can die and that's fine. Like I could
Yeah.
still be in the energy and still be with the plural. I don't need my desires met. My desires are, as wonderful and as, inconsequential as all the other desires of the world. But as you kind of zoom out and step out of this idea of I and connect more to the plural, these fears naturally and desires and, fear and desire
Hmm.
go hand in hand. They naturally fall away because they're you're losing this tightness, this armor that's saying
Hmm.
I am an I and I need these things, and if not, the world is going to end, because none of those things are true, right?
Right. Yeah. Um, I really enjoy that. And so it was really fascinating. Like, as you were talking about that, I was having this really fun kind of like energetic, expansive experience. So I'm
Mm.
just kind of sitting in that a minute. Here, let's see if I can share that a little with you. There you go. It's like shooting out through my Care Bear heart. Are you old enough to remember Care Bears?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I was there. I was there for Care Bears. I was
Okay,
there.
so, like, I loved how the Care Bears were just, like, shooting energy out of their heart chakras.
Mm.
So that's basically I feel like a live action Care Bear sometimes.
That's a good way to be in the world. I like that. I'm gonna make that the
Yeah,
title for the episode: live action Care
live
Bear.
action Care Bear. Oh, I love
I
this
like
for
it.
us. So at the end of the day, when it comes to the fears and these little things that kind of creep up, these are all super useful and they're all super helpful. I think, especially when we're in the state of noticing them and
Yeah,
deciding that, hey, you know what? This is how I was operating. I no longer choose to operate in this way. Um, so I think that's really fantastic. And I love this for all of our million and bajillion D
million and
fans.
bajillion. Yeah. No, and the guides recently said this in the chapter I was reading. They said, you have to see and notice and accept the darkness to move it. And
Hmm.
with so many of these things, we want to pretend they don't exist. I know I want to pretend that I'm enlightened all the time, that I just don't have any of this bullshit going on, that, oh, I just walk around and every, step I place upon the earth, light shoots out of my ass and, it's wonderful.
Did you relax your butt cheeks?
I have been thinking about that the last couple of weeks. And there's a couple of times I noticed, I was like, ooh, they're a little tense. People who didn't listen to the second episode would be like, what the fuck are they talking about?
To be fair, I have also noticed when I have needed to relax my butt cheeks.
It's a real thing. It's a real
It
thing.
is.
It was well said.
If you missed it, now you're gonna go back and watch it or listen to it or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly. That's how he gets you. Uh, but yeah, being able to see the darkness, and we have to bring mindfulness to it. We
Yeah.
have to accept that it's there.
Mhm.
We have to accept that it's okay to have these things. This is where the learning occurs. This is where the
Yeah.
lifting occurs. And we have to be honest with ourselves, with the pains, with the sufferings, with the fears that we still have. Because, if you're like me, you still have a lot of them. And
Oh, I
you
am
have
like
to
you.
accept them.
Don't you worry.
but that in itself is not always an easy step, but the most necessary and always the first step of acknowledging, whenever we can, of realizing, okay, I still have something here,
Yeah.
and that's fine. That's fine. That is the journey.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and, like, even when things are going really, really well and I'm feeling, like, super in flow, like, I don't ever wanna come across as sounding like I've got my shit all together because I certainly don't. Like, I still have plenty of stuff that I am working on. But I do think that the 2 can happen simultaneously. I think that,
Absolutely.
you know, that you can be in flow and you, um, can be in a space of allowing while also noticing your shit.
Well, we talked about this, I think, last episode, the refinement, right? As you
Yes.
refine thinner and thinner, it's almost like you start with like this big, heavy grate and you get all the big fucking rocks out and it's heavy
Yeah.
and it's shit and it sucks. Then you throw that away. And then you get the slightly less heavy rocks and then you throw that
Mhm.
away. And each time it's a little easier and a little lighter and to do it. And you get to the point where it's still just like, almost sand you're refining and really
Mhm.
getting down to just the thinner layers and the more subtle layers. And they're not opposites. Being in a place of having times of being in that love and being in that light and still refining and still because each time you lift, that's when you can get to the other layer. you
Mhm.
need
Yeah.
to you need to step up to be able to see what's deeper and under each layer, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Man, what a good one today. I feel good about it.
Good, I'm glad.
Anything else that we should impart before we depart?
Oh, I see what you did there. Oh, very fancy.
It was
Uh,
it was an accident.
I don't. I'll just say, if you want to say anything smart, I'll just say like follow us on the YouTube, follow us on wherever you're listening to this. Drop us a review, comment, whatever you want to do. We appreciate you as a listener truly, and thank you for coming back. Or if it's your first time, thank you for stopping by.
Yeah, and I don't have anything smart to say, so
I never do,
so
so I wouldn't worry about it.
it's usually if it's smart, it's something I channeled. It's not me. But I would like to echo that. Like, thank you for your time. Thank you. And Tom, thank you for your time. I always really enjoy us getting together like this. This is a highlight for me. And I mean, things are going pretty well. So life is pretty great. And also, I really enjoy our time together. So thank you.
Yeah. No, me
Yeah.
too. Absolutely. Thank you for stopping by, and I'm really glad we get to schedule the time for this because I really enjoy it.
Yeah, me too. So with that, we'll see you guys in a couple weeks. And thanks for tuning in. And I guess maybe here's the smart thing. Remember to look at things through the eyes of the eagle.
Okay, there you go. I love it.
Love it.
Good way to end. All right,
Awesome.
peace everyone.
Bye, guys.